Happy Tuesday. Trusting all is well. Speaking all is well. I want to give a brief word that came to me in reflection or thought expression. With the influx of people becoming interested in spirituality, what is I guess perceived to be spirituality, and spiritual systems and things like that. One of the things I want to express is the need for us to be careful that in our yearning and seeking, because I believe it's a genuine and I believe it's a righteous seeking, for those who are seeking to try to understand spirituality. Most have realized that, they really are a spiritual being. They may not articulate it like that. They may just feel like, look, I know there's something, greetings, thank you. I know there's something bigger than me. But I don't know if I really understand it, or I want a deeper relationship with it, understanding of it. And a lot of times that seeking and yearning is driven by the absence of peace, or the absence of abundance, or the absence of something, the thought of there being a lack of something. And so they're seeking something, looking for something. And I believe that it's a righteous, it's a righteous looking. But I feel I want to express for us to be careful in our seeking, because sometimes subtly in the seeking and yearning, you can get entangled still in ego. You can still get entangled in something outside of yourself, or something separate from this that we call God. Although it could create change or improvement in your life, it's not really leading you to the true source. It's still kind of leading you on the peripheral. And I had this thought because, lately I was advised recently to move away from books. I've been advised this before under the tutelage of a teacher, but move away from the books and the decks and all these different type of things, and go within, because there is where it is, and we hear that, that we have to go inside of ourselves, or we have to go in. It's an eternal work. But truly, spirituality is, I hesitate to use that word because of all of the different perceptions of what that word is, but spirituality is an inner work. And a lot of times when you're going to try to learn these other spiritual systems and all of that, you end up going external. You end up focusing on the external. And we see this with a lot of religions and religious practices or spiritual systems, where you join a church, or you join a mosque, or you join an elay, and you do things ritualistically, and you dress a certain way, you talk a certain way, and you really focus on a lot of external. And although, like I said, this creates a shift and changes, that's not ultimately where it's at. And we've heard this a lot. It is in the scripture. We hear that, but are we really understanding what that means? To not focus on the external. Once you begin to shift internally, the external happens. You don't have to be told to do anything as far as like how you dress, or what rituals you should do, what practices you should do, or anything like that. You begin to be led. you know. Spirit begins to lead you on what's right for you. It may be a certain way of dressing or a certain way of thinking, but it will all be for the sake of prayerfully moving away from ego. Any rituals or any practices that you do, spiritual rituals, spiritual practices, spiritual routines, or anything like that, should be for the sake of moving away from ego and closer to God, closer to the surrendering. Self becomes removed in it. If it's truly a spiritual practice, self becomes removed. And I'm saying, like, with this influx of trying to understand spiritual systems and all of that, you know, I see a lot of external, and you have to be careful with that, because self can become involved in it. Self can become involved in your prayers and in your rituals and in your practices. Self can be heavily involved. What do I mean by self being involved? Meaning you're doing it for the sake of some kind of gain for self, for that which you perceive to be self. I'm doing this so that I can get more money. I'm doing this so that my abundance can flow. I'm doing this so that I can be at peace. I'm doing this. And you may say, well, Queen, that sound good. Like, shouldn't we be doing these things for that? And I'm saying, subtly, I'm just talking about the subtleties here. Subtly, we're still caught up in ego when we are doing these things for self. So then what do we do him for, Queen? Or what do we do to gain peace, to gain abundance? Well, when you begin to really understand the reality of God, what this thing we call God is, what it really means, all that's involved in it, and you surrender to that and allow yourself to give over to it or embody that reality, peace, abundance, all of those things are added to you. It comes naturally. You don't have to do anything for the sake of it. If your prayers and your yearning and your desiring and your intentions are for the sake of understanding God, or for the sake of surrendering, for the sake of you. So for instance, instead of your prayers being so focused on peace or abundance or all of these different things, your prayers or your seeking or your intentions is to really understand your beingness. What is it? What does this mean? And I'm a spiritual being. Really understand that. That's your prayers. May the wisdom come to me. May the knowledge come to me. May I really get to understand what this life is all about. If your prayers are totally focused on that, may I move away slowly, but I won't say slowly but surely, because it could be quick or slow. May I move away from the perception of self, the perception of personhood. May I move away from taking things personally, attaching to emotions, attaching to people, attaching to things, focusing on this, focusing on, if that is your focus, if that is your intention, and that is your seeking, and that is your yearning, when that comes, because whatever you seek or whatever you yearn for, whatever you put forth intention and attention and energy towards, you gain that. As you gain that, by default, peace, abundance, love, companionship, all of these different things come. And it comes in the formation of God. This is really what it means to be God-like, to be divine, which means to be God-like. This is what it means. It means, okay, as you surrender, and you surrender your, meaning I'm not waking up thinking about life and the world and this and that. I'm waking up in gratitude. I'm waking up in appreciation. I'm waking up in a placid space. I'm kind of serene. I'm chilling. And then, you know, whatever prayers and praise and worship I offer is for the sake of God. It's for the appreciation of the reality of my being, the appreciation for the reality of, it's for the appreciation for the reality of my God-given gifts, my God-given talents, my God-given divine inspirations. It's for that. And then the surrender to that gives room for the revelations and the guidance and all of these different things for those things. So it's a different type of thinking. You're not chasing after things of the world. You're seeking and opening yourself up to understanding the things of an internal world. And so the thought I had this morning, you know, I was watching one of my favorite YouTubers, Dan McDaniel. I laugh because he's like this, I don't know, he could be perceived to be this, like, I don't know. Anyway, I laugh because when I came across him, it wasn't someone I would usually be attracted to, but I've been watching his videos over the last couple of years, and I've seen this transition in him. And it seems like, and I see it in so many people because of the age of Aquarius, the age of enlightenment. So a lot of people are shifted in consciousness, but I can see it in him. And he's really been striving. He's really been striving. His thing is he's striving to regenerate his life. He went through a hard childhood. He had a lot going on, and he just became very interested and almost obsessed with regenerating his body, regenerating his mind. Of course, once he started regenerating his body, his mind followed. So then he began to be more in tune with spirit and all these different things. So that's his whole journey. But lately I've been noticing he's happier, he's more calm, and all of those different things. And I heard his language this morning, and the language he used was, you know, I just talk to myself, and I tell myself, be positive, you know, think positively, go to the positive thoughts first, and all of this. I said, look at him. Because usually he'll be on the rant, child. He'll be talking about how the system and the world and the this and the that. But lately he's been offering his information from a more positive, grateful, appreciative standpoint. And I said, man, you know, although his videos before, he was giving information that could be deemed to be true or facts, the way he's giving it still has the same essence, the same message, the same lesson, but he's giving it from a place of gratitude instead of from a place of warring, you know, going against, you know, rebelling, you know. And to see that shift is amazing. And I see comments on some of his videos where people be like, I'm loving your light lately. I'm loving your, and I love it. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. And it's even more significant because recently YouTube banned his channel, and he had well over 200,000 people on his YouTube, because he's been doing YouTube since back in the day. So they banned him and just totally deleted his YouTube channel. And I was like, wow. But to see how he's taking it, I'm so like, that's what's up. Because really, it's like he loathed, if that's the word, having to use YouTube. It's like he really didn't like it, but he had, his whole following was pretty much YouTube. You know, he has other platforms, Patreon, Instagram, and he has his own private membership, which is where he really do a lot of his stuff. But his name is Dan McDaniel. The Life Regenerator is what his name used to be on YouTube. But anywho, so to see he got banned. Remember, now he was successful in what he was doing with the YouTube, over 200,000, maybe 300,000 followers. Was successful, but always complaining about it. Always complaining about YouTube. Not complaining. He was like rebelling. Like, you know, they're governing what we say. And he was the rebel, giving very good information regarding health and wellness and juicing and all of this. That's how I ran into him when I started juicing. I ran into his platform. But he was giving really good information. I'm talking about how to get rid of the film on your cells and how to regenerate the cells. Like, he's really good. Life regenerator is his whole thing. But he was rebelling. But now he lost the channel. He's on now. I think his current channel, people got wind of it being banned, and he now have maybe about 9,000 versus his 300,000. But it's so happy. He talks about how, his sales has been going good and everybody has been supporting, and he has no concern, and he's at peace and he's grateful and all these different things. And I'll say in observation from the videos that I have seen of his recent videos, and I said, wow, look at that. And he explained that he's trying his best to think more positively and all that. And my thought was, thinking positively is much deeper than what many people perceive it to be. I think it may sound cliche, think positively, and we may think that that's just kind of a way for us to not be sad or mad or scared and all of this. But thinking positively is much deeper. It's thinking positively is a spiritual act. Because think about what we're saying there. Think positively, meaning think from a space of life giving instead of death, giving. Think positively, meaning put positive charge in your thoughts, which are energy themselves. Greetings. Your thoughts are energy, or sparks of energy themselves. So when you think positively, you're literally being a positive charge to your life, a positive co-creator in your life, because wherever you are, that's where you're going to see. The thing about this thing we call God, it's yielding and yearning upon you. It's you that it serves. And so wherever you are, this thing that we call God, it's going to yield and yearn upon that. But to go even deeper, where you're not thinking positively from an intellectual standpoint, thinking positively from a spiritual standpoint is gratitude. It's the acknowledgement of God. It's the surrender. It's the praise, the remembrance of what God is, the acceptance of that, and the proclamation of that, and the worship of it's that. That's thinking positively from a spiritual standpoint, not intellectual. Sometimes we're thinking positively because we intellectually know that if I think negatively, it's going to make it worse. But thinking positively from a spiritual beingness standpoint is saying, listen, I'm going to take myself out of this thing called life. What I know is the reality of God is real. And because it is, all is God and all is good. Because this thing, this life force energy, this reality, this principle that we call God is always calibrating for the good. Now, our sense consciousness may perceive something different, but that doesn't make it where it's not true that everything is always calibrating for the good. And in order to really know that, not just trust it, we give thanks for the trust level. We want to get to the level of trust, because in order to get to the level of knowing, you got to get to the level of trusting it. Because once you trust that, you allow that to be in your life. You proclaim that, and you yield to that. You surrender to that, even when you don't want to, even when everything looks different. You be like, okay, listen, I trust it. All is good. Even when you see something that's saying it ain't good, it ain't good. But you proclaim that, and you're not trying to manipulate. You're moving self out of it. When you trust that and you do that and you practice that, you're going to experience what comes with that. And that renders the knowing of it. That is the level of positive thinking. I hear it all the time. It is good, but I'm saying everything in this age of enlightenment, this new earth, what we call a new earth, this new world, this new way of thinking, everything, we're being challenged to move everything from an intellectual level to a higher level, to an illumined level. So even your positive thinking, how can you move from positive thinking from an intellectual standpoint to an illumined standpoint? And that positive thinking is the acknowledgement of the reality of divinity, the acknowledgement of the reality of us being spiritual beings living a human experience. That's what it is. And so there, you don't have to like convince yourself, because it's going to be hard to convince yourself to be the self, the lower self. It's going to be hard to convince the lower self to be positive, because ego, you know, that lower ego, because you can evolve and now you walk with a higher ego, an illumined ego. It's a polarity to everything. People say, kill the ego, kill. Nah. Move away from the lower, okay, and let's get that elevated. But it's going to be hard to convince the lower self to be positive, because the lower self is always governed by senses. It's animalistic. It's governed by what it sees, what it hears, what it feels. It's governed by the memories of the past. The illumined ego is governed by the reality of God. Period. That's what it's governed by. So as you evolve, your sight changes, your hearing changes, your feelings changes. The things that used to make you angry, is that the triggers go away. The reaction becomes different to life. Your language changes. The way you look at things changes. The way you perceive things changes. The way you look at relationship change. The way you look at money change. The way you look at food, everything, your body, health, wellness, everything becomes illumined when you practice positivity from a spiritual standpoint. Because positive thinking from a spiritual standpoint is what we call divine mind. It's functioning in divine mind. And so you could be facing the same circumstance as somebody, and you see it totally different. You could be experiencing the same relationship with somebody, and you can view it totally different. And so don't be surprised if your relationships start to shift and change. Your desires, your appetites begin to shift and change. And I started this video talking about how oftentimes we're focused on the external trying to understand God, or we're focused on the external trying to build a relationship with God, or really gain from God. Let's be honest, okay? A lot of individuals find themselves trying to have a transactional relationship with God. Not trying to. They want to have a transactional relationship with God for the most part. Okay? I read something that said, how much do you do for the sake of God and not self? How much of your prayers are just for the sake of God? For the sake of giving thanks, not for yourself, for the sake of you. I started out by saying that external thing, you go there and try to change the inside, but it's vice versa. When the inside started to change, the outside start to change. Mind becomes matter. Change your mind and the matter around you will change. And so your relationships may change. The way you dress may begin to change. What brings you joy begin to change. How you spend your money begin to change. All of this begins to change. And not for the sake of self-righteousness, which is what we find if you're living this, if you're trying to build this relationship with God from the external, you end up being just self-righteous. Not even knowing. It's subtle. It's subtle. So, two things. Let us be careful as we are becoming more enlightened, as we are more and more people are seeking and searching and yearning for God. Be careful not to get entangled in ego, even in your searching for God. It's very easy in a society like this. It's very driven off of senses and has animalistic tendencies. Okay, So just be careful. It is an internal job. It ain't got nothing to do with the amount of beads you got around your neck, what kind of clothes you're wearing. If you cut your hair off, keep your hair, it all of that. If it's not inspired from within, then you're doing it for the ego. That's why you got to be careful when you're going under somebody else's guidance and tutelage and all these things. Just careful. I ain't saying nothing wrong with these things, but I'm saying that as you are working with these people and things and entities and organizations and religions, whatever, make sure it's an internal process happening and you're being led and guided. So when you're told to do something or invited to do something or guided to do something, it should resonate with you because it matches something that you're internally being inspired to do anyway. It shouldn't even be shocking. It should be something where you go, man, I was thinking I should do that, or man, I had the idea to do that. It should be in alignment. It shouldn't just be you doing rote ritual and you just doing these things because a lot of times it be for the sake of self. Well, if I do this thing, then I'm going to heal my family. If I do this, then I'm going to be more prosperous. If I do this, I'm going to break the curses on my bloodline. If I do this, I'm going to be saved and go to heaven. If I do this, that's all. It sounds good. I'm telling you, it's subtle. It sounds good, and I'm not talking against it. But I'm saying subtly, you could be even striving, even in your righteous striving, you could be doing it for self and for ego. And it becomes self-righteousness. Ashe, y'all feel what I'm saying? I'm talking to y'all because this is stuff that in reflections come up to me. Check yourself, sis. Why you check your whys. Check your whys. X and Y chromosome. Check your whys because it's going to determine what you birth. You feel me? Like, I have to check myself. I wrote this morning, refinement. What is this refinement process? Because that's what this illumination and this enlightenment is. It's a refinement process that's going on. And in your refinement, for me, what I wrote this morning, is there any place where self is involved? Yeah, just yesterday I wrote in my journal, where does ego show up? I posted something on my page. It shows up for me. It shows up as I reflected. You know, it don't show up a lot giving thanks, but it shows up when I'm in a space of placing judgment on circumstances, situations, or things. Usually judging them good, bad, right, wrong, easy, hard, whatever. And so I'm like, okay. Judgment is a faculty that we need, we have, but I want to judge from my divine mind. And if I'm judging from my divine mind, all is well, always, period. There is no good and bad, right, wrong, all is always well. Like, if you start to judge, you're starting to put a level of push or pull. There is no push or pull when it comes to the reality of God. It's all flow. It's all placid. Okay? So that's what word came up for me. I said, okay, well, let me look at the antonyms for judgmental. In the way that it manifests through us. That judgmental piece manifests through us as a very push or pull, resistance. How can I need to get in the middle. I don't want no resistance. I don't want to sit in judgment of right or wrong. I want to just sit as a witness, being a witness, an observer of life. Placid was the word that came up. So I said, okay, let me look at some synonyms for that. I found some synonyms for placid, and that's what I'm striving for as far as my attention and intention is placidity. Is that a word? I might be making it up, but being placid, serene. It said detached, at peace with some of the synonyms. Happy-go-lucky, it said one of them was. All of these words, I posted it on my page. But so I shared that because this is a strategy that I advise that we use to assist in this transformation journey that we're all going through. Okay, period, poo. She said it's a word because you said it. But we're all going through this transformation, and it sound good. I'm transformed. I want to transform. It sound good, but it's a process that you have to give over to. It takes discipline. It takes reflection. It takes attention. Some of our attention span is real short. It takes attention. It takes focus. It takes being on a straight and narrow path, not being distracted. That's what it takes to really experience a transformation of the mind, and a renewal of the heart, renewal of the mind. And that's what it's all about being saved. You know, saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost. You gotta renew them. You gotta allow yourself to be renewed of mind. All right, y'all. I could go on and on forever, but I gotta get to work. I'm gonna change the language in that. I gotta get to my divine inspirations of the day, because that's how I flow. You know, whatever I'm divinely inspired to do, I do that as a spiritual entrepreneur. That's be my vibe. I do it for the sake of divine inspiration, with no forcing or fighting or chasing. So that's what I gotta get to, fulfilling my divine inspirations for the day. But I want to say this. You're welcome. Go to my YouTube channel. Sunday, the title of the Sunday message and meditation was "Clean Up the Temple." And we went into the message that was channeled went into temple. Everybody right now, put your hands on your temples. Put your hands on your temples. You got your hands on your temples? Okay. Clean up the temple. I went into I went into the temporal lobes, what functioning they have, the temporal lobes in the mind. And it was deep. It was deep. But it really is the renewal of the mind. It really is the renewal of the mind. If your spiritual practices and your spiritual efforts and your religion and whatever does not have a focus on the renewal of the mind, not just cleaning up negative thoughts, and just thinking positive, but understanding the reality of God. And this understanding begins to recalibrate the perceptions. Temporal lobe has something to do with memory and perceptions. This understanding begins to wash out your memory, wash out your perceptions, and you begin to see life differently and think about life differently and make different decisions and all of this. That's where it's at. Okay? That's where it's at. The whole story of Jesus being sacrificed and sprawled out on the cross, all these stories is talking about the renewal of the mind, the surrendering of the mind. That's what all these stories are talking about. The story of Job, the story of Solomon, the story of all of these are talking about states of consciousness and the shifts in states of consciousness. And all of these shifts only happen if it's not happening from an inside place, maybe inspired by the outside, but an inside place. If it's not happening there, and if it's not happening where you're gaining levels of understanding, wisdom, and knowledge, then it's just surface level or intellectual changing of the mind. And you will find that you could get stuck in a place where you know better, but you can't seem to do better because it's just an intellectual shift. And we have to be careful with that because it can happen. It has happened to many of us already. I can't tell you how many times clients will say, I know this, Queen. It's like, I know this. It's like, I know you know it. But now you got to get it to the next level. You got to you don't know it yet. You trust it. So we got to move you from the trusting place to and I don't know, you might not even be in the trusting. You may just be in a place of like, well, I can accept that. But do you trust it? Because when you trust it, you function from that place. Even when you don't feel like it, even when you don't see it, don't seem like whatever, even it don't matter. You're going to function from that place. The more and more you do that, the more you begin to know it. Because think about when you trust somebody, you gain trust of people because you allow them space to show you something. So when you trust it and you allow it, it starts to show you something. It ain't nothing better in the world that I've ever experienced than trusting the reality of God and allowing it to show me something. Because, oh my goodness. Woo, child. The levels of testimony I got. My God, God is good. I'm telling you. It's like fire shut up in my bones. If I start telling you, it's going to be hours. I'm telling you. I bear witness. You talking to somebody who I'm speaking to you, not because I want you to like me, love me, appreciate. I give thanks for all of that. Not because I'm trying to get any likes. For it don't matter. I appreciate it, give thanks. But let me tell you, I'm talking to you because I bear witness. And if I bear witness to it, of course I want it for you. Of course. One is because, I have the gift and the passion and the purpose of teaching. But I'm just another spiritual being like you. So, of course, I want you to feel it like I feel it. Get it like I get it. What? Man, listen. Queen, are you always smiling? Yes. Do I have my challenges sometimes? Yes. But I got enough to smile about. I have enough to smile. It ain't even a material, but giving thanks, because the sister was born to love opulence. But it's not the material things. It's the knowing of the reality of our beingness. Oh, what? The reality of our beingness? It trumps everything. What do I have to fear? What can come up against me? I don't care how it look. I don't care. Me not care. Me not care. I don't care how it looks. There is nothing to fear, period. When you have that, man, come on. When that renewal of the mind come on, man. It's time to let go of the anxiety, the fear, the panic, the worry, the this, the that. Let it. It's so lower. I'm telling you. You could go so much higher. You can go all this, I want this, and I deserve that, and none of this, and you gauge in this, and you got the assessment for this. All that can go away. It's so distraction. It's all distractions. It's all, I'm telling you, if you get caught up in the inner kingdom, if you go to the kingdom that's within and clean up the temple, man, the access that you will gain on any level that you're wanting, whether that's relationships, job, money, whatever it could be that you make that come up in your mind as a heart desire. If you seek the kingdom within, if you clean up that temple, you have that renewal of the mind, a renewal of the heart, you become like a magnet. It's like a magnet. It's even deeper than that. It's not even like a magnet. It's like, I don't know. I don't even really have a word. It's not a word that justifies it. It really does come off magical. It really is divine. It really is. It really, really is. It's just, I don't get on here and talk about all the things. But if I was to do so, man, it'll blow your mind. Every day. It'll blow your mind. Every day. Every day. Every day. I gotta share this one on the front lobe, and I gotta go. One in the front, running in the front of my head. I've been recently vibing on how much you can get entangled in ego as an entrepreneur sometimes if you're not careful. As an entrepreneur, you can definitely build a strong relationship with God, because you're gonna have to sometimes, most times, all the time. But entrepreneurship could also get you caught up in ego, because in this world of social media and marketing and sales and this and that and all of that, you could get caught up in self. You could get caught up in ego. You could be very lower self-driven. Because if it's for the sake of money, if it's for the sake of eat, you got to be careful. Okay, so I was reflecting all last week. All my reflections was on, this a new earth entrepreneur. What does a new earth entrepreneur look like? And a few things came up, and I'm working on a book, y'all. I am. I'm working on a book. It's just I just make sure I put it in my journal so I can have it when the Most High give me the inspiration to get that book done. But this idea of a new earth entrepreneur, what does that look like? Because when people go into entrepreneurship, they're pushed to go to this workshop, take this class, get this person to run this and do that and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And you begin to do a lot of stuff external outside of yourself. And so you get on this chase and you don't even realize it. And so anyway, a lot came out of that reflection. I'll be here for another hour and I'm not going to do it. But ultimately what came from that reflection was, whatever you have been inspired to do and build as a business, it truly is a work of it's the creator's vision. So I want to take the mystical language out of it. There's this grand pulse of life. I use this analogy a lot. It's a grand pulse of life, and everything and everyone is involved in it. The trees, the squirrels. That's why totems. That's why, animals can teach you things. I mean, everything is a part of this grand pulse of life. Everything. And you are a part of this grand pulse of life. And so everything that you're inspired to do is a part of this grand pulse of life. Everything from the things that you deem to be mistakes, failures, successes, all of these things are part of this grand pulse of life called by many the one mind. It's a part of it. So if you have been inspired to build a business, it's a part of that pulse. So it's not all you like that. It's not all you like that. And so one of the things that came from this reflection of the new earth entrepreneur is to only do divine inspirations. Your to-do list should be influenced by divine inspirations. And once you make those actions, once you do, because it's more about operating from your being that drives what you do. Once you do those things that you are divinely inspired to do, whether that's email somebody, send out this, do that, whatever it may be, you just send it and you keep it moving. Because it's already calibrated for the success, for the purpose of what you were supposed to do it for. So you surrender. You take the ego out. Oh, I'm looking to see if this is successful. And did it do right? And let me look at the analytics. And let me look at that. And this sounds very against and opposite of what everything else that you've been told to do to find success in business. You don't get caught up on those things. You do it from a place of being in tune. It feels good because whenever you're divinely inspired to do something, you feel wonderful doing it. It should be fun. You should feel gratitude in it. It should spark inspiration. It should be inspiring. It should have all of those characteristics to it. And so you do take action and you do those things and then you let them go. You don't watch them. You don't stalk them. You don't do nothing. You let it go. You plant the seed and then you keep it moving. And then you stay in gratitude and you enjoy your life. And I began to consciously look at my business practices, the things I find myself doing, the way I'm exerting my energy as an entrepreneur, and refine in different places. So I did this. I had this like early last week. This was the reflection. And so there was some shift in the way I was feeling about certain things that I was doing. There was some shift in the way I'm approaching things. There were some divine inspirations on some things I want to offer and how I'm doing it, and then how I'm thinking about things and how I approach all of that. So I had such a beautiful, peaceful week when it comes to business, running my business. Well, yesterday I get a call from my father, and he goes, "You got an envelope here that says," I ain't gonna say what it says, but it said something about what will I say? It said it's from a entity. When he said it, I knew what it was. I said, "Huh." I said, "Okay, that sounds like a check." That sounds like a check. And sure enough, it was. I mean, I knew it was once he told me. But when he called out the amount of the check, I said, "Look at that." Now, the reason why that was so profound to me, because one of the things that I desire in the way I function with my business and ministry is to never be in a place where I'm chasing money. Because when you begin to chase money, you move out of your purpose. When you begin to chase money, self is involved. Ego is involved. Yearning is involved. And whenever you find your place in a place of yearning for anything aside from gratitude or the reality of God, then you're in ego. And so, but in most practices, business practices, it says you need to be sending this, you need to be posting every 2 minutes, you need to be doing this, you need to be... I'm going to do what I'm inspired to do, and I'm going to leave it alone. And my thought was, man, it would be wonderful if I'm not doing anything according to how much I desire to, how much I need to basically, how much I need to run the business or to foot my life, you know, to make money that helps me to not only survive but thrive. The check was enough to give me, if it was enough to put me in a space where it's definitely no yearning or forcing. And so it just fueled. It's like the grace. It's like grace, you know, because it gave me the grace and the fuel to do some of these things that came to mind. Work on the book that I told y'all I'm inspired. I have been inspired to create. You know, one of my members, she's a young college student. She hit me up like a few days after I was inspired to, you know, that reflection, and was like, "I'm in town. Let me know if you need me to do anything." And she's a videographer. She does film and all that stuff. And I've had this idea to begin to put together somewhat of a documentary style project that where I tell my stories and I tell my testimonies for the sake of gratitude and for the sake of inspiring. And she called, "I'll be here." And we starting that on, today is Tuesday. We start that on Wednesday. That happened. You know, I was inspired to how I'm going to begin to do my newsletters. I want to do in a different kind of way, you know, where it really is rich content. Like, it gave room for that, because when you're thinking about surviving, you focusing on money, you focusing on things, this world, like you can't get in that illumined space, that magical, inspiring. You ever been in that space where you just feel inspired? You just feel like you want to do something. You're eager to get up and do it. You're eager to go and do these things that you're inspired to do. That's how I always want to feel. Period. And the way you feel that way sustainably is that renewal of the mind. Is you moving away from self. So I just wanted to share that. It's just it's an amazing thing, and it's worth the patience. It's worth the discipline. It's worth the diligence. It's worth the sometimes you got to become hermit. You got to go in hermit mode. It's worth the relationship shifts and all that. It's worth all of that, because you go into another realm, another dimension that's heavenly. You know, heaven is not a place that we go after we transition. It is a place we go after we transition in the mind. Okay. All right. So I was about to close. I told y'all to go on over to the YouTube and check out that clean up the temple. That was I loved how that channeled on Sunday, and we ended up in a nice meditation as well. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. Also, you done made it this far in this video as a replay or live. Peace to my people who've been hanging out live. Peace, y'all. You should be on my newsletter. So make sure you're on my newsletter, because all of these things that I've been inspired to do and all of that, I'm doing it through my newsletter channels. whether that's through my Learn group, where you can join as a member for my Learn group. You'll start to get the notifications, or my newsletters you can join from my website. Those who join the Learn group, you get much more than the people on just my newsletter. Okay, just FYI. So when you go onto my website, you'll see Learn, Align, Thrive, Emerge, and Indulge and Emerge. You'll see those memberships. The Learn group will give you access to a lot of content that a lot of people don't have access to, but you will also get access to a lot of different perks and benefits that I don't just be handing out. Some things that I offer my members or my closed net group, I don't just put it out here. You know, there are some things I don't just put it out here. It's for a reason. But if you've come this far, you should be on one of them platforms. So you can either go to my website and join my newsletter, or you can go to my website and join the Learn group. And come on over to this community of like-minded individuals. We just striving to renew our minds and clean up our temple and live in our purpose and, you know, enjoy this experience. That's what we're here for. We've been duped for a long time. We've been duped for a long time, but it is a beautiful time to be alive, because this is an age of illumination and enlightenment. And so let us take full advantage of it. Let us take full advantage of it. All right, y'all. Peace and love. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Merry Mars Days to you. Enjoy the rest of this month.